welcome to another night of frank conversations on hard copy. I'm Maokpe Ogun. Now, before I go on to introduce the guest for the evening, I would like to acknowledge the mails sent to us last week by some of our viewers on the interview we had with the governor of Old Kaduna State, Alhaji Balarabe Musa. Adeni Thompson, you say it's refreshing to hear someone speaking the plain truth about our corrupt system. I didn't catch the full discourse about IMN, but it sounded like he was trying to defend them. That's what you said. From Ifeanyi and Simon, we have this one. Well, Ifeanyi Simon says that Balarabe Musa has said it all. You also say that Nigeria must have a radical revolution so that this country will be won again. Well, we thank you for your mails and for your comments on Twitter. And to be a part of today's conversation, you may write to hardcopy@channelstv.com or tweet at CTVHardcopy. Well, now to the matter of the day. My guest tonight is Nigeria's Minister for Information and Culture, Alhaji Mohammed. He speaks with me tonight on an array of issues bordering on the state of the nation. It promises to be interesting, so stay tuned and part of the conversation. Getting Alhaji Mohammed, thank you for coming on Hard Copy.
Thank you very much, Maokpe.
You're giggling, why?
Well, I'm happy.
Okay, you're happy to be here.
Yes,
I'm happy that you're happy to be here. Well, we're going to start with this one. This week, an online medium, Premium Times, listed you among 16 other ministers yet to fully comply with the Code of Conduct Bureau rules with asset declaration. Are you hiding anything?
I have nothing to hide. I have complied. And I think the last time the Bureau asked us to come for further clarification, they also postponed it. Frankly speaking, there's nothing for me to hide because there isn't too much to declare because I don't have too much.
So what was that about? Because it was in the news that the Bureau was threatening to arrest you and 16 other ministers, that's alongside other heads of agencies, because you're yet to comply. And then they commended some other people who had complied.
Frankly speaking, if you live by what is written either in the social media or in the print at times, you'll be so completely misled.
So what is the situation with the Code of Conduct Bureau?
The situation is that I'm yet to get a new date from the Code of Conduct Bureau.
I went to their website. They just said that they've sent out invitations to you and to about 72 other people, inviting you for verification. Are you privy to that?
No, I'm not. If I receive their notice today, I will be there tomorrow.
Okay, well, let's dovetail into the fight against corruption because that's where all of this is stemming from. A lot of people say that, there's mixed signals coming from the presidency in terms of its fight against corruption. For some people, they say that the president is not fighting corruption. He's fighting corrupt people. They believe that the fight against corruption should be more institutionalized. Do you agree with them?
I agree with them. And actually what we're doing is fighting corruption, not necessarily corrupt people.
How do you mean?
Oh, to fight corruption, you have necessary to prosecute those who are corrupt. If you want to fight corruption, you also must discourage corruption. And that is why one of the first things we did early in this year was to begin a sensitization campaign against corruption, letting Nigerians know exactly how much corruption has cost them in terms of lost opportunities. But of course, you cannot fight corruption without fighting corrupt people.
Well, some of the accusations out there is that the corrupt people that the government is choosing to fight has been very selective. In fact, some people say that you find some politicians dumping their parties, if they are politicians, to join the APC because they believe that that immediately confers on you immunity from prosecution. How do you respond to that?
We've always said it, and the president said it loud and clear, that nobody will escape, prosecution just on account of being a member of the party. Mm-hmm. And we've not been selective at all in fighting corruption. We've been fighting institutional, corruption via institutions. We've been looking at what went wrong. We never went after people. Take, for instance, the $2.1 billion, arms scam. It was precisely because we wanted to know what went wrong that the Boko Haram lasted so long. What happened? Did our soldiers get enough equipment? Were they well armed? Was their welfare taken care of? That was what we set out to probe. In the process, of course, we found out that certain people, pocketed money which was meant to fight Boko Haram, for their own personal reasons. So we didn't set out to probe anybody in particular, but we set out to investigate what happened to money allocated to do certain things.
Well, let's look at, because the president has said that if anybody is found in his administration to be corrupt, he will deal decisively with the person. He talked about people presenting evidence. Now, only recently, I'm sure you've been following events in the news, the Senate recently came out with this investigation, or a committee investigating what went wrong or went on in the presidential initiative on the Northeast and indicted the president of this government's SGF. There's been silence on that from the executive. What precisely is going on?
I don't think government operates that way. A report is released today, and the next day the government will make a comment. Number one, we are yet to be officially, given even the report of that, a copy of that report. But frankly speaking, if it is every time one, committee or the other finds A or B guilty, without proper investigation by government itself, I think it would be a travesty of justice to just say, because the Senate or House of Reps has found A, guilty in court, therefore immediately he must be sacked. Of course, the government is not impervious to these things. Yes, we had it. I read like you read it too. But there's a proper procedure if you want the matter to be investigated. Your
Senate is an arm of government. When you say that the investigation has not been conducted by government itself, I mean, are you saying that the executive thinks is the only one that can conduct investigations?
You see, if you find me guilty, I don't belong to your arm of government. You must transmit that, report to my employer. He will now also look at it and say, is it true? If it is true, he will take an action. If it is not true, of course, he won't. Of course, he will let you know.
But considering the strength, I mean, this administration is riding on the economy, but first and foremost, fighting corruption. Considering the weight of these allegations, the fact that they have been in the media for quite a while, these investigations, it would seem, you don't think that the presidency should have moved a bit more swiftly to, see what is going on in this respect?
You see, an allegation does not become, a conviction simply because it's reported in all the newspapers or it's on all the media. So the fact that it's everywhere does not mean it is true. And I believe that is a proper way to do things. And the government will look at it. If it is true, if it's proven, the government will take action.
This is also coming as the Senate has rejected the confirmation of the acting EFCC chair, Ibrahim Magu. What's the thinking of government or the executive arm of government on this rejection?
The separation of power. If for whatever reasons the Senate rejects the nomination of a president's nominee, there are many other things you can do. You can either resubmit, the name. You can find out why it was rejected. If you can clear, you can clear the air. You can make explanations and say, look, actually that is not the situation. So the government is studying the report.
You heard why he was rejected. It was based on a security report, which the Senate says is a copy of. It would, follow that the executive arm of government should be in copy of that same report, you don't think?
Well, if we get the copy of the, like I said, I had it on television like you had it.
The government is not aware of any security report written on the EFCC acting chair?
I'm not aware.
The government is not?
Are you asking me? I'm not aware.
Okay.
I had it just like you had it.
Well, you've sent some of the excerpts of that report in the papers.
No, I had it on the news and I read it in the papers.
What implication do you think this has for the war against corruption? You know, when you hear bits and pieces of news, and the fact that mass media are carrying this information, yet it would seem that government says, we're not aware, we don't know what is going on.
You see, you know, with due respect to the media, you don't try people, you know, on pages of newspaper or online. Yes, the government is not deaf. These reports, when they are properly laid before government will take proper action.
Let's quickly talk about security, which is one of the areas, you know, that you've always said, especially with the fight against Boko Haram. You've said over and over again that the war against Boko Haram has been technically won. Boko Haram has been technically defeated. Yet when we look at the number of attacks that we've had from the beginning of this year, we're in December right now, about 180 lives have been lost in about 7 or so different attacks. Can we really reconcile the number of lives we've lost with the claim that we've technically defeated Boko Haram?
I don't see any contradiction in my position that Boko Haram has been technically defeated, and the fact that we have, you know, once in a while, we have, you know, suicide bombers, or we have cowardly attacks on soft targets. That is the nature of insurgency all over the world. France in 2016 racked up, you know, even a higher figure in terms of terrorism. So also did Belgium, and we do not know of any declared, you know, insurgency in those countries. Anybody who is familiar with the way insurgents work will understand that it is not a conventional war where you sit down and say, oh, you sign arms deals and say from today on there will be no more killings. But what we kept saying, and which nobody can contradict, is that about 18 months ago, more than 14 out of 20 local governments in Borno State alone was under the sovereign authority of Boko Haram. More than 18 months ago, it was impossible to travel to the southeast. Schools were closed. More than 18 months ago, the Boko Haram was operating like a regular army. More than 18 months ago, you could not even have, you know, semblance of, civic life in most of these areas. Today, all that has changed.
Would you say that there's been a lull in the fight against Boko Haram, especially since the attack and the loss of about 8 soldiers, where we lost, sadly, Colonel Abu Ali and some other soldiers? The issue of equipment came to the fore. The issue of welfare of soldiers also came to the fore. We also heard today, just today, that there are reports of mutiny from dissatisfied soldiers of 21 Brigade deployed at Bulabelo in Sambisa Forest. They're supposed to clear out Sambisa Forest. I don't know if you're privy to any of these reports.
Well, what I know is that there's no lull in the fight against Boko Haram. If anything, I think there's a small vigor in the fight against Boko Haram. As for mutiny within the ranks of the army, it's news to me. As for welfare, I know that at no point in the last couple of years has the government paid more attention to the welfare of its soldiers as we are doing today.